Councilmember Kevin McKeown is a 38-year resident of Santa Monica and works for our public schools.
Hi, I'm Sandy Jacobson, and today on Meet the Candidates, we're speaking to Kevin McKeown. Thanks and welcome, Kevin.
Thank you, Sandy. Good to be here again.
So, if you are re-elected, how do you decide which development agreements to support? What's your criteria?
You know, Sandy, I actually have a very good record on that issue, unlike the current council majority, because I've had the courage to say no to bad projects. In fact, I have voted against more bad projects than any other council member, more development agreements than any other council member. Only if a project fits in our city should we even consider it. No amount of community benefits can ever make a bad project into a good one. And there are some things that have happened in our city that make me want to run again, to be there to defend my neighbors. I opposed the eviction of 50 rent-controlled households at 301 Ocean Avenue. I voted against the eviction of vulnerable seniors at Village Trailer Park. And of course, I voted no every step of the way on the oversized and traffic-generating Hines project. So I have demonstrated the ability and the willingness to defend our city against bad development and to approve only those things that are good for us. And during the time I've been on the council, that's included several new parks, new libraries, including our exciting new Pico neighborhood library. So there are great things happening in our city, but we must pick and choose. There are many more projects being offered to us than we should accept.
You mentioned affordable housing. A lot of people feel that with affordable housing, those residents do not require as many parking spots. Would you be willing to lessen the parking requirements in order to build more affordable housing? Or why not?
Well, to be clear, our existing code already recognizes that in truth, and it's pretty obvious, people of lower income tend to own fewer cars and be less likely to drive. So when we build affordable housing, we keep in mind how very expensive it is to build a parking space. And the building of that parking space raises the cost of the entire building and takes space that might have been an additional unit for a family that needed the housing. So yes, of course, we recognize that lower income families and senior citizens tend to have fewer cars, and our zoning code should and does reflect that.
Let's talk about the airport. Until the airport is closed, if it ever is closed, what are you doing as a council member to mitigate the negative effects on the community?
I have been active actually on that for 7 years now. I worked with Ted Lieu on the environmental impacts. You know, Sandy, if you look at an aerial photograph of our airport, you'll see that it's like no other airport in the country. It's like an aircraft carrier surrounded by a sea of homes. And so the impacts on people who live nearby are more extreme than anywhere else, and there are no safety buffers at either end of the runway. So there are several things I've been doing. One is, of course, I was part of the city lawsuit to require that the faster jets not use the airport, because frankly the FAA wouldn't let a new airport be built for those jets with no safety buffers. I've also worked on the air pollution issue, and when we had to close the airport for a few days, I had the South Coast Air Quality Management District come in and do air quality measurements. It turns out for the people who live near the airport, during those few days, the emissions in the area were reduced by up to 12 to 17 times. So when people say it's just automobile pollution, that's not true. That airport pollutes and we need to reduce that pollution. I'm a fan of taking care of that problem and keeping control of our airport. I support Measure LC for local control. We own that airport, and so we should be able to say what happens on that land.
All right. On the Expo line, what policies would you support to enable the city to cope logistically and financially with the influx of visitors that we're going to have in 2016?
Well, of course, we're planning for that already, and every bit of land use we've done around the Expo line has reflected that, looking for better pedestrian access, looking for being able to control the pulses of people, because they'll come off the train several hundred at a time. Even more important to me is how it affects our mobility, and I'm looking very carefully at what we're going to do where the train intersects our main arteries to make sure that the arterial traffic is not tied up because of the train, and we're working closely with Expo on that. I also oppose the idea that Expo may want of putting fences along the right-of-way. I don't want to divide our community. That was one reason why I didn't want a huge overhead railway that would make North and South Santa Monica seem like two different places. Most importantly, I'm worried about the neighborhoods adjacent to Expo because the land values will go up as the train comes in. And I don't want our low-income families losing their homes as that existing occupied affordable housing is displaced by gentrification.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And thank you so much for joining us on Meet Your City Council Candidates. You can view all our candidate interviews on smvote.org. And while you're there, check out more information about ballot measures and candidates. But most important of all, remember to get out and vote on November 4th.